Hey everybody, it's Neil from 2AF again. Gonna do another one of these videos about some of the guns that are around here that have an interesting story or are maybe significant in a historical manner or something like that. This is the first clone rifle I ever built, and although it is a clone rifle, I didn't start it out as a clone rifle. I didn't really know what cloning rifles was. If there was a group of people out there doing it, I didn't see them. So I had just seen a really cool picture of a gun on AR15.com, and I wanted to make something like that. There was a poster by the screen name. It was spelled 3RDTK. Some people speculate that that was somebody who worked for ARMS. Some people speculated it might have been Dick Swan himself. I really don't know. I just know that 3RDTK posted a picture of probably one of the most unique ARs I had seen up until that point. It was a early SPR prototype build that looked a lot like this, and I said I want to make that. I solicited the help of Wes from MSTN before I got into building or selling guns. He was somebody who I had gotten some of my very early stuff from. He was always very helpful, and to this day has probably made some of the best looking and most accurate ARs that I had ever seen. So he helped me out find the parts, and I had gotten the barrel from him. At that time it was like probably 2002 or 2003, somewhere around there. I could not have a threaded barrel, so I had to buy a crown barrel, and it was a Krieger stainless barrel with just a crowned muzzle, and that's what I started with. I went about and I bought the PRI flip-up front sight, which reminds me, he had asked me when I wanted the barrel, do I want the flats machined into it? And I didn't really know what he meant, but I come to find out that this one and the original guns, they used 4 set screws, 2 on the right side, 2 on the left side. And when you screwed those set screws in, they stopped on a flat that was machined into the barrel. So I had my Krieger barrel built like that. So I got the corresponding front sight for it. The PRI rail, by the time I did it, they were doing these Gen 3 rails. And then of course I got the ARMS number 38 SPR PEQ. Let me see if I'm saying the right thing here. ARMS number 38 SPR PEQ-2-3. I got the ARMS rail to go over it. The 22 rings, all of them were no lever stop then. There was no such thing as no lever stop because everything didn't have levers. So I got the 22 medium rings, the 22 TRC, the tactical ring cap here, and then the TRR, the tactical ring rail that goes on the top. I used to have a Dr. Optic up here, but I think I moved that over to my Mod H gun. Old number ARMS number 40 rear sight. This one has the cut in the small aperture, and it also has the large A2 style windage knob. Pretty early on, pretty close to that time, maybe in about 2004, 2005 time frame. They switched to their own unique windage knob, but at this time they were using just the standard A2 windage knob. Later on, a buddy of mine, Chuck, gave me this A1 stock off of one of his M16A1. My friend John from Hot Brass 365 gave me this old A1 grip. You kind of see it's a Bakelite. It's got kind of that strange pattern in it. I originally used an Armalite 20-inch gun just because it was a pretty bare bones gun. It was pretty affordable for me to use. So I had the Armalite upper and lower. Coincidentally, the gun I bought had that raised AR and NATO cross on the upper, which allegedly some of the early SPRs used those same markings on the uppers. Later on, I went on to buy a Colt lower. I still would like to get some kind of A1 profile lower for this, but I haven't done that yet. Wes at MSTN also got me this Young Manufacturing National Match bolt carrier. Allegedly some of those were used on the early SPRs as well. And then on the equipment exchange on AR15.com, I found somebody selling this old Leupold scope. Well, no, it wasn't old back then, it was new. So it's a VariX III. It's not a Mark IV. This is a VariX III LRT, I think it is. Of course, it's 3.5 to 10. 30 millimeter tube, 40 millimeter objective, 42 millimeter or 40. 40 millimeter objective lens. The M3 knobs, if I'm not mistaken, which are 1 M away, so super coarse adjustments up on your elevation, and half M away on your windage. This is a first focal plane version, which I like a lot, but it has a different reticle than like a real Mk12 or SPR scope would have used. This one has the Premier reticle version, and although I think that was correct for some other clone guns or some other guns, it wasn't the right one for Mk12 or SPRs as far as I know. But it's that old, it's kind of that right time frame, it's that right profile, so I've always kept it on here. Can we talk about next? The Harris bipod that's on here is from that time frame. If you see on the back here, this lever, this was the pod lock. Back then, people really complained about these because it was a super simple piece that you could buy something really similar that was probably like $8 or something, but I think these are like $25 or $35 at the time, and it was called the pod lock. And it went on here, and you could very easily loosen it so the swivel on your Harris bipod would be loose, and then when you didn't want it loose, you could really easily tighten it up and it would be solid. The original knob that came on these Harris bipods were knurled, but they were kind of small, and it was not easy to get a hold of them and really lock them in place so you would get that wobble out of the bipod. So people were using these pod locks, and people complained how much money they were back then, and now I don't think you can really find these original ones, and they just have the cheaper ones. So I think people who sell the original ones get a lot more than $35 for them now. So again, I'd be glad to have these back at 35 bucks. Let's get into the barrel. That's right. I mentioned that I used a Krieger barrel on this originally. Sometime after I built the gun, I went to SHOT Show, and I was supposed to go to this get-together, and I saw Steve from ADCO, and Steve from ADCO and I knew each other a little bit, and we had sent him some barrels because this was right when the ban was ending, so a lot of people were getting their AR barrels threaded. A lot of people were taking the pinned and welded muzzle devices or muzzle brakes off their barrels so that they can put regular flash hiders on there. So we would send him barrels, and they did a good job for us. So anyway, I saw him at this get-together. I sat down with him, and he happened to be sitting down with a guy named Vince Jaga, or Yaga, I don't know how to say it. But I did not know it at that time when I sat down with him, but I quickly learned. Apparently Vince had a lot to do with the Mk12 program, and he built some of these guns for the military, or uppers for the military. I don't know a whole lot about his history past that, but all I can tell you is he was super friendly. When I started talking to him about the Mk12 that I had, he asked me about the barrel that was on it. I told him I had a unthreaded Krieger barrel, and he said, well, let me I'll sell you one of the Douglas barrels from one of the military guns. And so of course I paid him for that, and he sent me a new barrel that was apparently, you know, it could have just as easily gone on a military Mk12. That was probably somewhere around 05 or 6 or so, something like that. So put the Douglas barrel on there. Of course, the Douglas barrel was contoured for the Mk12 model. So I got the 12th model brake and collar. At the time, the silencers were coming with the brake and collar, and it came with the short collar. So that's what I used on this one. But this is one of the original Mk 12th models. It's M4 marked, MBS prefix to the serial number, Shingleton, California. So we put all this together when I got the Douglas barrel for it. It's got one of the original older Knights Armament 2-stage triggers on here. The PRI gas buster I have on here is not probably one of the original ones, so it is. It does have the patent mark on there. This one also uses, I think they call it the flat latch. Personally, I like those a little bit better than the big round latch because this had a little bit of texture here, a little more surface area, but nonetheless, that is a PRI gas buster on there. In any case, that is the Mk12 Mod0 that I have, and some of the story about how it went together. And again, that was the first clone rifle I ever built, and man, I still love this gun. A couple things I have on here that are definitely not correct. I use this gun at matches pretty frequently, not all the time, but pretty frequently. And PRI makes this rail. You take the factory rail off, you put this rail on, and it's got a QD swivel here. And then Noveski makes a QD swivel for a fixed stock like this. I can't remember what size. It's like a half-inch drill bit. You just drill right into the stock. You drop this QD piece in, you open up your trap door, and then you screw in a plate behind that, and you have a QD here now. So now I can plug my sling in here and use it at the SPR matches that I use this at somewhat frequently. Man, and that's it. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, please drop them in the section. And man, thanks for being 2AF, everybody.